In the heart of the eastern region of Nigeria, surrounded by rolling hills and green forests, there was a village called Umuobi. It was known for its rich traditions, beautiful women, and valiant men. Among these traditions, none was as significant as the yearly festival, known as the Riji, or New Yam Festival. This festival was when families introduced their unmarried daughters to eligible bachelors, and many marriages were forged under the night sky, illuminated by the flickering light of torches and the rhythm of Igbo drums. However, there was one exception to this customary joy: Princess Adaeze, the most beautiful daughter of Eze Obiekwe, the king of Umuobi. Adaeze's beauty was renowned throughout the entire eastern region. With her radiant dark skin, long braids that cascaded down her back, and a smile that could light up the darkest nights, many believed she was the epitome of perfection. But despite her beauty and royal lineage, no man in the village or beyond would come forward to ask for her hand in marriage. The reason? Princess Adaeze had a body odor so strong and unbearable that people struggled to be near her. Adaeze was well aware of her problem, and so were her parents, Eze Obiekwe and Lolo Ifunanya. The odor was something that followed her from childhood. Her parents, in their desperation, had consulted countless dibias, or traditional healers, traveled to distant lands and offered sacrifices to the gods, but nothing could rid their daughter of the strange curse. Eze Obiekwe had grown increasingly frustrated over the years. He was a proud man, and it pained him deeply that his daughter, despite all her virtues and beauty, could not find a suitor. As the king of Umuobi, it was expected that his children would set the example for the entire village. Yet, here was his daughter, a princess with no prospects of marriage. The whispers from the villagers grew louder with each passing year. Some said it was a curse from the gods, while others believed it was the result of a sin committed by her ancestors. Adaeze, however, was not without her own strength. Despite the mocking and whispers, she held her head high and carried herself with dignity. She was intelligent, kind-hearted, and well-versed in the customs of her people. Many admired her from afar, but could not bear the stench that accompanied her. For years, she had watched her friends marry and start families, while she remained alone in the palace, longing for a love that seemed impossible to attain. One evening, after yet another suitor had left the palace unable to withstand Adaeze's smell, Eze Obiekwe called a secret meeting with his trusted chiefs and the village dibia, Ezina. He could no longer bear to see his daughter suffer, and he feared that the continued lack of suitors would bring shame to his household. "I cannot watch Adaeze remain unmarried for another year," Eze Obiekwe said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Ezina, you are the most powerful dibia in our land. Surely there must be a way to lift this curse." Ezina, an old man with white hair and a weathered face, nodded solemnly. "I have tried many things, my king. But there is one thing we have not yet attempted. There is a powerful shrine deep in the Ojukwu Forest, beyond the hills of Umuobi. It is said that the spirit that dwells there is a jealous one, but she is capable of great miracles. If the princess is willing, she must journey to the shrine and make a personal plea. Perhaps then, the curse will be lifted." Adaeze, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation, stepped forward. "Father, I will go. I will do whatever it takes to free myself from this burden." The journey to the Ojukwu Forest was dangerous and filled with uncertainty. Adaeze was accompanied by her loyal servant, Ngozi, and 2 palace guards, Ifeanyi and Kenechukwu. The journey would take them 3 days, and many in the village feared they might not return. As they entered the dense forest, the air grew thick with an eerie silence. The trees seemed to close in around them, and strange noises echoed from the shadows. They knew the stories of those who had ventured into this forest and never returned. But Adaeze was determined. She could not live the rest of her life under the weight of this curse. On the second night, they made camp near a stream. Adaeze sat by the fire, staring into the flames, her mind filled with doubts. Was this journey even worth it? Could the gods truly have mercy on her? Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest, and the group was thrown into a panic. A mysterious figure emerged from the darkness, an old woman dressed in rags, her face obscured by a veil. "Do not be afraid," the woman said, her voice rasping. "I am the guardian of this forest. I have been expecting you, Princess Adaeze." The group stared at the woman in shock, unsure whether to trust her. But Adaeze, feeling a strange sense of calm, stepped forward. "I have come to seek help," Adaeze said. "I need to be rid of this curse." The old woman smiled faintly. "You will find what you seek. But be warned. The answer you seek may not be the one you desire." Before Adaeze could ask what she meant, the woman vanished into the trees. On the third day, they reached the shrine deep within the Ojukwu Forest. The shrine was old and crumbling, covered in vines and moss. As they approached, a cold wind swept through the clearing, and the air was filled with the faint sound of whispers. Adaeze knelt before the shrine, and offered a sacrifice of yams and kola nuts. She spoke to the spirit in a quiet, trembling voice, asking for the curse to be lifted. For a long time, there was silence. But then, the ground beneath her feet trembled, and a voice echoed through the trees. "You seek to be free of your curse, princess," the voice said. "But freedom comes at a price. Will you pay it?" "I will pay any price," Adaeze replied, her voice resolute. "Very well," the voice replied. "Return to your village. You will find that your burden has been lifted, but beware. For the price of freedom is one that you may come to regret." Adaeze felt a chill run down her spine, but she stood up and nodded. She had come too far to turn back now. When Adaeze and her companions returned to Umuobi, there was great anticipation. Word of her journey to the Ojukwu Forest had spread, and the villagers gathered around the palace to see if the curse had truly been lifted. To everyone's amazement, Adaeze no longer smelled. The air around her was fresh, and for the first time in years, people were able to stand close to her without recoiling. The news spread quickly, and soon, suitors from neighboring villages began arriving at the palace, eager to win her over. Adaeze was overjoyed, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. What was the price the spirit had spoken of? What consequences awaited her? Among the many suitors who came to court Adaeze was a man named Obinna, a wealthy merchant from the neighboring village of Ogidi. He was handsome, charming, and appeared to be genuinely interested in Adaeze. The two of them quickly grew close, and it seemed that Adaeze had finally found the happiness she had longed for. But there was something strange about Obinna. He rarely spoke of his past, and no one in Umuobi had ever heard of him before he arrived. Some of the villagers whispered that he had come from far away, beyond the eastern lands, where strange customs and dark magic were practiced. Adaeze, blinded by love, ignored the warnings. She was happy, and for the first time in her life, she felt like a normal woman. But as their courtship progressed, strange things began to happen in the village. One evening, as Adaeze and Obinna walked through the village, they heard the distant sound of drums. It was not the joyful rhythm of celebration, but a haunting, sorrowful beat. As they approached the village square, they saw a group of villagers gathered around a body. It was Chinonso, one of the palace guards who had accompanied Adaeze to the Ojukwu Forest. His lifeless body lay in the dirt, his face twisted in pain. No one knew what had killed him, but the elders whispered that it was the work of dark spirits. Over the next few weeks, more strange deaths followed. Villagers who had once mocked Adaeze for her odor were found dead in their homes, their bodies cold and lifeless. Fear gripped the village, and many began to suspect that Adaeze's curse had not been lifted, but rather transformed into something far more sinister. One night, unable to sleep, Adaeze decided to confront Obinna about his past. She found him standing by the river, staring into the water with a troubled expression. "Obinna," Adaeze said softly, "I need to know the truth. Who are you and why have you come here?" Obinna turned to her, his face pale in the moonlight. "I did not come here by choice, Adaeze. I was sent by the same spirit that freed you from your curse." Adaeze felt her heart sink. "What do you mean?" "The spirit of the Ojukwu Forest is a jealous one," Obinna explained. "She granted your wish, but she also demanded a price. I am that price, Adaeze. I am not a man, but a spirit in human form. I was sent here to bring death to those who wronged you, and once my task is complete, I will return to the forest, leaving you alone once more." Adaeze stumbled back, unable to comprehend what she was hearing. The man she had fallen in love with, the man she had hoped to marry, was not even human. And worse, he was the bringer of death to her people. Torn between her love for Obinna and her duty to her people, Adaeze sought counsel from her parents. Eze Obiekwe and Lolo Ifunanya were horrified by the revelation and immediately called for a meeting of the village elders. "The spirit has cursed us all," Eze Obiekwe declared. "We must find a way to rid ourselves of this evil before it consumes us." The Dibia, Ezina, was called upon once more. He revealed that there was a way to banish the spirit, but it would require a great sacrifice. Adaeze would have to renounce her love for Obinna and send him back to the forest where he belonged. Only then would the death stop. Adaeze was devastated. She had found love, only to be told that it was forbidden. But she knew what she had to do. The lives of her people depended on it. On the night of the full moon, Adaeze led Obinna to the edge of the Ojukwu Forest. The air was thick with tension, and the villagers watched from a distance, their faces filled with fear and anticipation. Obinna stood before the forest, his expression somber. "I understand," he said quietly. "I was never meant to stay. But know this, Adaeze. I loved you with all my heart, and that love was real." Tears streamed down Adaeze's face as she nodded. "I love you too, Obinna. But I cannot allow any more innocent lives to be lost." With a heavy heart, Adaeze spoke the incantation given to her by Ezina. The ground trembled, and a dark mist rose from the forest, engulfing Obinna. His form began to fade, and within moments, he was gone, leaving nothing but silence in his wake. The deaths in the village stopped, and peace was restored. But Adaeze's heart was broken, and she withdrew into herself, unable to find joy in anything. The villagers, grateful for her sacrifice, treated her with respect, but she could feel their pity and fear. Time passed, and suitors once again came to court her, but Adaeze rejected them all. She could not bear the thought of loving someone else, knowing that her true love had been taken from her. Eze Obiekwe and Lolo Ifunanya worried for their daughter, but they knew there was little they could do. Adaeze had paid the price for her freedom, but it had cost her dearly. Months later, a new man arrived in Umuobi. His name was Chima, and he claimed to be a wanderer from a distant land. He was strong, handsome, and charismatic, and he quickly won the favor of the villagers with his stories of adventure and bravery. But there was something strange about Chima. He seemed to know things that no outsider could possibly know, details about the village's history, its people, and even the events surrounding the deaths that had plagued them months earlier. Adaeze, intrigued by the stranger, invited him to the palace. She found herself drawn to him, despite the warnings in her heart. Chima was different from the other suitors. He was mysterious, confident, and seemed to understand her pain in a way no one else could. But as their relationship grew, Adaeze couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about Chima, something that reminded her of Obinna. One evening, as they walked along the river, Adaeze confronted Chima about his true identity. "Who are you, really?" she asked, her voice trembling. "And why have you come here?" Chima smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I am not who you think I am, Adaeze. I am a spirit, sent by the gods to watch over you." Adaeze's heart raced. "A spirit? Like Obinna?" Chima nodded. "Yes, like Obinna. But I am different. I have not come to bring death or destruction. I have come to protect you and guide you." Adaeze was stunned. "Why? Why me?" "Because you are special, Adaeze," Chima replied. "The gods have chosen you for a great purpose. Your journey is far from over and you will face many more trials. But know that I will be by your side, watching over you." As Chima and Adaeze grew closer, a new threat emerged in Umuobi. A neighboring village, led by a ruthless warlord named Eze, began raiding the outskirts of Umuobi, stealing crops and livestock, and terrorizing the villagers. Eze Obiekwe knew that war was imminent, and he prepared his warriors for battle. But the village was small, and their forces were no match for Ezena's army. Desperate to protect her people, Adaeze turned to Chima for help. "You said you were sent to protect me. Can you help us defeat Eze?" Chima's expression grew serious. "I can help, but it will require great sacrifice. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to save your people?" Adaeze nodded without hesitation. "I will do anything." On the night of the attack, Chima led the warriors of Umuobi to the battlefield. He fought alongside them, his strength and skill unmatched. But even with his help, the battle was fierce, and many lives were lost. As the battle raged on, Chima revealed his true power. He called upon the spirits of the forest, summoning a storm that ravaged Ezena's forces. The ground shook, and the sky turned black as lightning struck the enemy's camp. But with each use of his power, Chima grew weaker. He was a spirit bound to the human world, and using his abilities drained his life force. In the end, Eze was defeated and Umuobi was saved. But Chima, exhausted and weakened, collapsed in Adaeze's arms. As Chima lay dying, Adaeze begged him not to leave her. "I can't lose you, Chima." "Not again." Chima smiled weakly, his hand caressing her face. "I am not truly leaving you, Adaeze. My spirit will always be with you. But you must be strong. Your journey is far from over." Adaeze nodded through her tears, her heart breaking once more. "I will be strong. I will honor your memory." With those final words, Chima's body dissolved into the wind, leaving Adaeze alone once more. But this time, she was not filled with despair. She knew that Chima's spirit would guide her, and she was determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the village of Umuobi began to rebuild, Adaeze stood at the edge of the Ojukwu Forest, gazing into the distance. She knew that her story was far from over, and that new trials and tribulations awaited her. But with the strength of the spirits and the love of those who had come before, she was ready to face whatever the future held. The story of Adaeze, the strong-body Odor princess, is far from over. Her journey has just begun, and many more adventures await her. What new challenges will she face? What secrets will be revealed? Stay tuned for the next chapter in this thrilling tale of love, sacrifice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to our channel for more interesting and fascinating African folktale stories. See you soon in part 2 of this story of the strong body Odor, princess no man wants to marry.